Not a dream, not a hoax, not an imaginary story, and not a crossover to promote another character. I was able to walk into a comic shop for the first time in 22 years this week and pick up an issue of an officially licensed regular Tarzan series. This is a review of Lord of the Jungle #1 from Dynamite Comics. All right, and just a quick note, this will be a non-spoiler review. I'll probably be doing spoiler thoughts when we get deeper into the series. So it's been a long time since we've had Tarzan comics outside of the occasional once-in-a-blue-moon crossover. So if it's been a while since you've collected comics, welcome back. Yes, comic books are still a thing. Yes, they do cost $4 a pop now. And yes, they are only 20 pages of story. And yes, every issue has a ridiculous amount of variant covers now. And yes, comic shops are still a thing, and that's where you can get this. They could have it on the shelf, or if they don't, you may have to ask them to order it, or you can get it off an online retailer or a eBay seller. We'll talk about my experience at the end when I went to my comic shop. Also, even though Tarzan has been absent or largely absent from comic book shelves for the last couple decades, there's been a lot of good work done with new Tarzan material in the last few years that we'll talk about at the end, including new artwork from another Tarzan comic project that's already in the works. But first of all, let's do this review, starting with the cover, or should I say a cover of this issue. There are 26 covers for this issue. You can see a gallery of them in the back. A lot of them are variants of each other, but I think each of them looks nice. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. So let's talk about the cover I got, which is cover A by Gary Frank, and I like it. It's a good composition. The animals look great. Tarzan looks badass. The color works. I like it. It is a intriguing cover. I don't know if it'll sell the uninitiated, but at least get your attention, right? You may at least be a little bit intrigued by this cool looking cover, right? When we open up the interior, we're greeted to this glorious black and white image from the interior by Benito Gallego, and he does the online comics for Tarzan that we'll talk about at the end. But my God, this is such a gorgeous image. And so right off the bat, you know that the pencils and inks on this are absolutely top notch, but can they survive modern coloring? And I would say it does okay. I think the color could have more contrast, brighter colors, things like that. Obviously, they're trying to go for an art style here with the type of, kind of muted colors they have. And I suspect they'll be adjusted as the series goes on. Like I said, it could certainly bring out the line work more, but it's certainly not as bad as I've seen on a lot of other modern comics. Even on scenes set in a dark, stormy night, the line work is still there, and I can still tell what's going on, which is a good thing because a lot of times scenes like this turn into a dark, murky mess. You can't see anything. So it's good to see that Benito's work, made it to the page okay. And I love the design work for all the characters. I think they look great. I love the mustache for Tarzan's father. It reminds me of Thomas Wayne, Batman's father, which I think is very appropriate for the character. And so let's talk about the story. It's by the legendary Dan Jurgens, who wrote Superman. He wrote Tomb Raider and Booster Gold and all that stuff, right? And so he has a lot of experience under his belt, and he brings it to bear on Tarzan. And please note that this is a new Lord of the Jungle and a new version of Tarzan. This is not at all related to the previous unlicensed Lord of the Jungle series from Dynamite. So the issue has a framing sequence set in 1950 with an older version of Tarzan returning to Africa. And then most of the issue is flashbacks to Tarzan's origin, and it roughly covers about half of Tarzan of the Apes. Now, this is interesting on a couple different levels. So first of all, the fact that it's old man Tarzan, in the novels and in a lot of the interpretation we see of him in comics and comic strips and stuff, he has found the secret to immortality. Him and his family have the secret of eternal youth, and so they are alive and well up into presumably modern times. However, the fact that this Tarzan in 1950 is old, perhaps this version never found the secret of immortality. Perhaps his family didn't take those eternal life pills. Perhaps they did and they're worn off. We don't know. It's kind of intriguing, right? And while this closely follows the novels, there are a lot of little changes and some rather large changes to the novel in the flashbacks. And so this is a brand new version we've never seen before of Tarzan. And so the reason why that's interesting is that we've had a lot of comic adaptions of Tarzan of the Apes over the years. This is a reprint of the first one. This was the newspaper strips. And all these things around me you're seeing, they are comic adaptions of Tarzan of the Apes. And they are all very, very close to the novels, at times just basically transcribing it in comic book form. And that's wonderful, and I love each and every one of these to death. So what really intrigues me about this new version is that it remixes the different elements that were in Tarzan of the Apes to basically get to the same plot beats, but in slightly different ways. And that's exciting. Like, what would happen if Burroughs could go back and write it now, right? Let's say Burroughs was immortal and he looked back and was like, oh man, knowing where the character is going and all the stuff we know about Africa now, how would I write Tarzan of the Apes? And that is a very intriguing idea. And I think Dan Jurgens gives us a pretty good answer to that question. Or at least it's good so far. This is a very small slither of story, so it's very hard to judge things from this. I would like to wait until we get a little bit more before I start giving spoiler thoughts and kind of, comparing this to the novels and stuff like that. Because I really, I'm not sure where he's going, and the most intriguing thing is the things that are not in this issue. Like, for instance, Jane is not in here yet. So what's she going to be like? And so, yeah, overall, I do love this first issue and do recommend it. If you are a Tarzan fan, of course, you need to pick this up. If you are not, this is a retelling of his origin, so it's about as good a jumping on point as you can humanly get. I don't know, again, where they're going. Will this be mainly a adaptation of Tarzan of the Apes, or is that just some flashbacks and then we'll focus on the story set in 1950, or will we have flashbacks to reimagine other novels? I'm not sure, but I do like what they're doing. It is a new version of the character, but it is one with story and art that are respectful and reverent to the source material. And I think people are going to dig this if they see it and pick it up. That may be a big if. So let me talk about my experience when I went to my comic shop. So I got it. It was on my pull list, right? I pre-ordered it a few weeks ago. I know I should have done it earlier. I kept doing videos telling you guys to do it, and I put it off. So anyway, I did get it, and then I went to the shelf, and I was looking for it because I was going to do a video where I was like panning down the shelf of comics and got to the Lord of the Jungle #1, right? Except it wasn't there. It actually wasn't on the shelf at all. What the owner told me was that there were about 4 or 5 issues that had been ordered for the shelf, but late orders of it from customers like me ended up taking those up, and so there was nothing for the shelf. And so if you didn't pre-order this at my comic shop, you didn't get it. And so that was a little bit sobering. My comic shop is a pretty big one. Dynamite is a prominent publisher. They put out 26 covers of this issue to motivate collectors and retailers to order more. And they actually had some wrestlers tweet about it to hype the first issue. And to walk into my shop and not see it on the shelf was a little surprising, but maybe it shouldn't be, right? Tarzan, again, aside from a once-in-a-blue-moon crossover promoting another character, has been largely absent from comic book shelves for 22 years. Comic shops are used to him not being on the shelf. Hell, there are a lot of comic shops that have probably never had a regular Tarzan series on their shelves. So this may not be as easy of a sell as I was thinking. But I want you guys to tell me what you've experienced at your comic shops. I'm hoping mine is an outlier, but hopefully, we'll get some numbers about how well this sold and stuff. I hope it does well. I'd love to see more Tarzan comics and not less. Speaking of comics, Edgar Burroughs Inc. has been putting out online comic strips that you can subscribe to of Tarzan and just about every Burroughs property you can think of, and even some that you can't. And those Tarzan strips include New Adventures of Tarzan by Roy Thomas and Benito Gallego. Burroughs Inc. also puts out new novels, including recent novels that have been crossing over between each other of Tarzan and John Carter and Carson of Venus. And that plot line is going to conclude with this novel, which is shipping this month. It's called Victory Harbin and stars a brand new character. And it's revealing secrets to the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe, like how John Carter got to Mars and why there's life on Mars in the novels. So it's really exciting stuff. And Edgar Rice Burroughs Inc. also is doing comics. And so Jane Porter, in true Jane fashion, could not wait for her husband to return to comics, so she had to get her own. And so this is the Jane Porter one-shot that's available right now on the Edgar Rice Burroughs website. And there is a sequel to it that's in the works, 72 pages, called Jane Porter and the City of Fire. And there's a Kickstarter for that right now, and you can jump on that and get it when it ships in February. And those graphic novels are going to continue, and I'm happy to say Mike Wolfer posted artwork from Tarzan and the Jaguar's Son, which is a graphic novel coming out next year from Burroughs Inc. And he has a sample of what he's doing on the cover, but just because he's doing the cover doesn't mean he's also not doing the interior. So I'm very, very happy to see that and super looking forward to that Tarzan graphic novel next year. And so I do a lot of Tarzan and Burroughs related videos. I've done videos of every single thing I just mentioned. I've done videos of Tarzan action figures and comics and movies, you name it. And so I will certainly be doing more reviews as the Lord of the Jungle series comes out. So like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.